Hello and welcome to the Makers with Heart for November of 2023. Our collaboration this month is focused on the new Make It From Your Heart Volume 6 book, and we are all getting to choose one of our favorite patterns in there and use it and show you how to use this book and love this book. If you don't have any of the Make It From Your Heart books, you're really missing out, I think, on a valuable tool. You can use them as sketch. They have instructions for how to assemble. They also have all the cutting guides as far as sizes. So whatever level you're at, it is a book that is there to help you. The other thing we have going for us today is we have a guest maker, Mel Giesel from Mel Stamping Gallery is joining us. Her video came out yesterday, so if you haven't seen it, go to the description under this video and be sure to check that out. Give her some love. And the other gals, we started on the 10th, so that would have been on Friday with Jessica. So I'm the third video for the week. So let's go ahead and jump into the photo that I'm going to use today. It's kind of my inspiration where I'm jumping off from. It's a photo of my mom at 3 months old and her mother in Victoria, Texas. And I just love my granddad's writing on the back of the photos, so I've gotten into a habit of copying those. So now I'm pulling out my Make It From the Heart Volume 6 book, and I'm trying to find a layout that will work with this one photo, and I'm not seeing any that really jump out at me until I turn the page. And this is a card pattern, but I'm going to use it for my layout today. So these are not just for, you don't have to stick inside the box of this is a layout, so here's your layout pattern. So I'm pulling the old the Good Life papers. As of my recording this, they are still available. They were from the September-October catalog, but life has just been really crazy around here. My mom is suffering some health issues, and so I'm having to spend much more time doing that. Also, one of the reasons why I'm enjoying doing some of her Heritage album pages, because I get to hear the stories and I get to show her when I'm done. So I just have that pattern off in the upper left corner. I apologize, but it's basically a card front with 5 different strips of ribbon banners, I'll call them, or pennants, underneath just a line across the page. There's not even a sentiment put on it. So I'm envisioning that this doily with my mom and grandma are kind of going to be what would be the sentiment on the card. I had this piece of holographic foil paper that I had punched for a different project, and it's been on my desk now for probably more than a month because I did it during the 30 days of sketches, and I just thought it would be perfect. The colors go great. It's just a nice silver. The camera and the lights that I have in my studio do give it more of that rainbow feel, and it is there, but for the most part, when I look at this in real life, it's just a nice sparkly silver. So I'm going to cut the zip strip off of these papers, and I have made one project, maybe 2, out of this Good Life paper pack, but I didn't get to play with it nearly as much as I wanted to. So I'm excited to be able to use it today. And then I'm trying to just decide based on how the banners look, how wide I want them. My height, I'm going to decide based on the page itself. I think it's going to be at least 8 inches. It might be 9 inches. So what I decided to do to make it easier for me is I'm going to go ahead and cut these banner ends in. And it's funny, on some of these papers I have a harder time seeing the slit up the middle than on others. So here, because they're the exact same width, I went ahead and just used the one as a pattern for the other. And so I'm just trying to dry fit. I'm not necessarily using the measurements, obviously, because this is a card front, but just trying to give the same feel of that sketch or project pattern, I guess is the right word. I apologize. And so here I realize I need to cut these a little thinner, but I want to use the words. So I'm making that so the words will be written correctly when it's on the page as a banner end. So I have that done. And then this light wood grain is just beautiful. I love kind of those cool grays in there. Just, it's perfect. So now I'm going to add a little bit of this gingham in the background, and I'm trying to decide how long I need it, and how wide really. So I'm going to go back to 3 inches, so it'll be right in between the size of that wood grain and then those 2 back banners behind it. So just all varying widths, and they do end up also being a variety of lengths. And like I said, I'm kind of leaving them long. I figure I can cut off little pieces, and that's okay. I'm starting a series of using up scraps, so I'll just have a bunch of this paper that I love and colors that I love to start off one of my projects. Now this holograph paper only comes in 11 inch, 8.5 by 11 inch, so I knew I was going to have to trim that to be able to stretch it to both sides of the 12 inch paper. I'm trying to decide at this point if I want to put like a full frame around this. I did that a lot last month, and I felt like maybe I was falling into a pattern or a rut, so I did decide not to do that. I really like how this turned out. The only thing I think I would do differently is maybe leave the stripe background paper above the scalloped edge line, and then maybe have something more solid behind the banner ends. I don't mind it, but I'm just thinking as a variety, maybe that's something that you want to try for yourself. So here again, I am one that I dry fit. If you've watched my channel at all, you've heard me say this. I am such a visual person that I use my eyes to create, and it's funny because how you create while creating videos, or at least for me, is I'm kind of off to the side. I'm not really over top of it as much as I normally would be. So I get a different reflection of my work when I'm editing my video, and it's kind of funny to see oh, I like that better, or oh, I'm glad I did that, and just little things like that. So as I'm fussing here trying to add in some extra embellishments, and I am going to change the color, I use the dark side of that doily for the accent instead of the light side, so I needed to go off camera and cut that. But I will remind you to go ahead and check out the links of all the gals in the Makers with the Heart this week. We go from Friday with Jessica all the way up till Thursday with Lori, and we have Mel as our guest maker this month, and her video was yesterday. So I have a playlist, and as each of the videos come out, they will all be there. So you can just use the playlist and it will take you through all the videos that are currently available for you. Now on these old photos, the outline framing, I'll call it, is not always the same on all 4 sides. So I try to pick whatever the smallest side is and measure it, and then I make all the rest matte. So that's matched. So that's what I was doing, was just making sure that I had all of the outline borders on that photo the same. And I'm trying here to decide how far up I want to have that lace doily. I did a Mother's Day album, or a Mother's Day gift, in the form of an album for my mom back in 2022, and for a thread that kind of kept all of the pages coordinating or cohesive, because they weren't matchy-matchy, but I could put single page layouts one next to each other. I had this lace filigree scallop, and I did that in charcoal, and then all of the pages needed to have a blue and a green tone to them. They could also have, instead of this lace scalloped edge, there was also doilies and film strip from a thin cut. So to kind of keep this as a page that will easily go into my mom's album, I went ahead and added this lace scalloped edge. And I did a layout with my granddad at Randolph Air Force Base, which is here in Victoria, Texas. So this is why my grandmother and mom are in Victoria, Texas. They are with my granddad while he's stationed there. And I like to, I don't want to say assembly line style, but I do like to be efficient when I scrapbook. So you see here that I put all of the glue on all of my papers because I've dry fit them enough that I know this is what I'm going to do with them. I will share that sometimes I've gotten confused, and did I turn all the papers over because there's patterns on both sides? So you just have to find yourself a rhythm of what works and know what's gonna be functional for you and work for you. I didn't talk about it because I was talking about other things, but I did ink all of the edges with the Harbor ink on all of those banners, and then also on the I won't call it the journaling, but kind of the description of what's going on in the photo. I inked the edges of that cardstock copy that shows my granddad's writing. At one point I tried to find matting for behind the photos, and I thought about for the placard of the photo, but nothing. It was just, this page has so much going on that I thought by adding in another color or putting the Harbor in there, it was just going to take away from some of the other elements. So sometimes not having that is just as important as having those things in my world. So now we're going to add this photo. We're going to put the information about the photo in my granddad's writing there. And I have all of these stories that I've collected from my mom and my aunt. And so I typed this one up while I was cutting out these filigree leaves because I wanted some embellishments. I didn't necessarily want florally. It's from December of 1945. It's not necessarily a Christmas photo either. So I'm just trying to find a nice way to embellish without it being, I don't know, too thematic. And then I took a long time. I even called in my oldest to talk about title for this, and we came up with a moment in time, which actually ties in with the journaling, because shortly after this photo, in the spring of 1945, my grandmother drove in a 1939 Chrysler. That was an important detail that my aunt filled in, from Texas back to West Virginia, Clarksburg, West Virginia, and they were trying to keep my mom safe as a baby from getting polio. So Grandma was with her daughter in Clarksburg at her parents' house, and then in August of 1945 they came back to the Randolph Air Force Base and were with my granddad again. Unfortunately, after a spinal tap test, it was learned that my mom had 2 of the 3 different types of polio, and so they were unsuccessful in their quest to avoid the baby getting polio. And that's just what's told in the story here. And because both my mom and my aunt gave me variations of that story, I kind of combined what they told me into this journaling. And here I'm just doing more of that Harbor ink on the edges of the journaling. It softens it. And I'm keeping this in here so that you can see. I use the T-square ruler kind of as a guide of where the bottom of each of these letters go. And then you can move it down again and you get to do the same thing. And I found by using this, because I used rulers before, or even a piece of paper, but those always moved. But this T-square ruler, because it butts up right against the edge of the Versamat, I have really been enjoying putting my titles down. They're not nearly as, I don't want to say it slanted. Slanted's probably a better word for it. Slanted one way or the other. So as you can see here, I'm going ahead and putting glue on all the backs of all of the holographic paper. I did stack these, so I put some white daisy cardstock underneath the holographic paper so they're a little bit thicker and have a little more body to them, and they just stand out a little bit more. So now I'm going to use the two-way memory glue, which I absolutely love this glue, and you can see because of the filigree leaves, I'm doing the gluing right on top of a corner of a multi-purpose mat that I've cut apart. And then I will tuck these right under my photo, and I'm really liking how this is coming together. I feel like I might need some gems or something, and I haven't figured out what that's going to be because I don't want something that's going to compete with the holographic paper. So going through my stash, I have a whole bin that it says metal and buttons on it, so it's those kind of pieces. So you'll get to see here what I find, which I think is just perfect, and it's a stash busting move. And for cleanup, I use my little like 1/9 of a piece of a shop towel, and that zig glue just kind of rolls up almost like the old rubber cement did, and so you can clear up that and you're ready to go the next time. And for putting down these strips of journaling, as you can see, I like to use my tweezers. They work great. You can get them lined up and it just goes right on the page. So I was gonna audition to see if I wanted those leaves anywhere in particular, and I'm going to add them there in the bottom right corner. When I was cutting them out with my die cutting machine and the paper, it was just a little more narrower, so I was just trying to squeeze out as much as I can. So here is my stash dive. Close to my heart sold these metal embellishments years ago, and I actually put the foam tape on the back. So some of that foam tape is not even active anymore, so I do end up having to add some glue to glue those down, but it works beautifully. So here I'm gonna go ahead and adhere a couple flowers, and on camera it doesn't, I don't think they do, you don't get to see the beauty that really they add to this layout. It's just kind of that finishing touch and you go, oh, this feels so good. So I'm excited to see what patterns my other Makers with Heart decided to use. Here's where I'm using the glue there. I know one time we did this with volume 5 and I think everybody used pattern 6 or pattern 9. I don't even remember which one, but it was kind of funny. Here's a close-up of the layouts. Be sure to go below the video description if you want to connect with me. There's products used. Any of them that are available are listed with links, as well as there's some Amazon links there that if you order through that, Amazon does give me a thank you. But I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Blessings.